grasses on a little path. And there isn't that much information about the haggis, the Highland haggis. It's generally illustrated in children's books, and they generally get it wrong, in my opinion. But I did come across, and what really got me interested in the haggis itself was an article that came out of Elsevier publication in 1996, which was entitled "The Integration of GIS, Remote Sensing, Expert Systems, and Adaptive Co-Kriegung for Environmental Habitat Modeling of the Highland Haggis, using object-oriented, fuzzy logic, and neural network techniques." Using all of this, and they really couldn't find any. So it's my job to go there and find them myself. We've seen the haggis in children's books. We saw them illustrated on placemats in a restaurant on the Black Isle, and they always, in my opinion, get it wrong. And I think I've got the story about the haggis. Now, a long time ago, when Scots, before the Scots, when Vikings and the Celts first came to Scotland, what was going to become Scotland, they found the country completely covered with trees, except for small clearings in the forest. And it was in these clearings in the forest that the haggis lived. Now, based upon somewhat shallow sketches of the haggis on some of these standing stones that are found throughout Scotland, it appears to be an animal about yay high, kind of wide in the beam, short legs, about the size and shape of maybe sort of the size of a sheep or a goat, but with the legs short, the dimensions were completely wrong. And it seemed to be quite happy in the clearings, eating the heath and the heather and whatever grasses were growing in there. But when man came, he didn't go to hunt the haggis, he was going to hunt the great red deer. But they started clearing the land. They cut down the trees for wood, to build houses and settlements and whatever. And the land was cleared of a lot of this wood. And the haggis realized what was going on here, and they came out and they actually populated all those cleared areas. Now, a lot of the areas they went to had nice rolling hills, which geomorphologists generally refer to these informally as Lollobrigidian landscape.
Is that like breastworks?
Treacherous climbing, you're saying.
But then, that wasn't the problem. The haggis loved it, but the problem was old man also brought sheep. Have you ever been in the country? There were lots and lots of sheep. And once they get out onto the countryside, they don't just simply gently tiptoe over the hillsides. They build these, with their sharp little hooves, these concentric paths right next to each other, especially on some of the steeper sides of these hills. And that's fine because they simply walk in one track the same way as kids we used to walk down on the curb on our way to school or something like that. But for the haggis, if you put legs in one track and the other legs on the other track, they could often lose their balance, and then they would bounce down the hill into the sea, into one of the locks, or crash into the rocks at the bottom. And this was terrible. They were endangered. But Mother Nature sometimes comes through at times like this and solves the problem. And she made it so that some of the haggis, actually all of the haggis, had legs longer on one side than on the other. In fact, in time, there were two distinct subpopulations of dextral and sinistral haggis, depending upon which side was longer or shorter.
If it's on the wrong side, do they go backwards?
Well, see, that was the problem. The reason why you got two distinctive populations is because there was no way dextrals could turn around and mate with sinistrals.
I wasn't going there.
Gotta be on. So that's how that solved the problem. Now, they're still fairly rare, and they're probably more endangered now than ever because they discovered in some of the restaurants in Edinburgh that they can actually serve both kinds of haggis. They can serve the sausage, or they can serve the locally caught haggis. So if you want to go over there and see the haggis, I think you've got to go fast. We'll be back there next fall for Dee's 14th time in Scotland and my 10th. I'll be over there looking for the haggis. You're welcome to join me, or you're simply going to have to.
Are you gonna be going to restaurants to look for them?
If you want to fight, you gotta go out go on the haggis hunt for the restaurant.
Can do that.
Yeah.
So you're invited to
It's
join
like a
us.
pub tour.
All expense paid, yes?
Excuse me?
All expense paid, you said we're invited?
We can
How many
talk.
wanna go?
We can.
Yeah, all expense paid out of your pocket.
Oh,
Mary, we'll talk.
okay, all right, all right.
Thank you.
On the right haggis,
I'm really not sure.
yeah, what are the rarity?
I'll see what,
Let me know.
I'll get back to you.
Give me a call.
So Frank, which one tastes better, the dextrose or the sinistral?
It depends whether you're right-handed or left-handed.
Good one. Excellent.
What a great comeback. Wow.
Why wasn't this part of the lottery here?
You want me?
So, did you have to, it's in a brown